But she's with us now for the final hour, so welcome, Isabel.
Never got anything better to do. What are you talking about?
Well, listen, let's get right into it. Got some good stories and issues to talk about. Last night, Tim Montgomerie, I love that guy, very nicely sort of gave us the exclusive, came in to this show to explain to the political asylum why, after 33 years, as what I would say the heart and soul of the Conservative Party, he quit and is, of course, going to Reform UK. Before we discuss what that means for Reform UK, try to sum up the importance of this. You see, you know, last week, quite rightly, Reform UK was saying, well, look, Andrea Jenkins, you know, veteran Tory MP, you know, so one of the grandees almost has come to us. That's very important. But Tim, you know, he formed Conservative Home, which is the sort of forum for Conservative debate. All Tories look at it every day. He was a speechwriter for William Hague. He was a speechwriter for Ian Duncan Smith, and was in Downing Street under Boris Johnson. And it was during that time he saw Boris and that government and what the Tories were doing, and he started to think, this is not conservatism. This is not what I signed up for. And now, after 33 years, as I say, he's like a spiritual guru for the Tory party. He has sensationally and dramatically quit. And he said to me last night, he said, I feel like a massive weight off my shoulders.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting. So I think you've just explained really beautifully the importance of Tim Montgomerie, because I'm going to guess, probably most people listening haven't heard of him, unless, of course, they caught your exclusive. And he probably does pop up on our programmes now and again. But he's not a household name, is he? So why does it matter that this person that, let's say, the vast majority in the country have not heard of Tim Montgomerie? It matters because he was a kind of one of the, in a sense, if not the architects of modern conservatism, very much at the heart of the revival of the Tory party after its, during the Blair-Brown years, how the Tory party rebuilt, and rose phoenix-like from the ashes during the tail end of towards the end of the Blair years, and began when David Cameron came in 2007, I think it was. Tim Montgomerie was there sort of charting what was going on and, pushing the party to modernise in a way that would make them electable again and not be seen as the nasty party. And people will remember all that stuff with hug a hoodie and, hug a husky out in looking at the melting glaciers, to make the Tory party seem green and all of that stuff, which they obviously went on to totally over-embrace. So he is an absolute, or has been an absolute, dyed-in-the-wool Conservative and very well connected across the party. And I was genuinely shocked when I saw that he had defected. And this isn't about one person. Otherwise, it wouldn't matter that much. And actually, I wasn't that bothered about Andrea Jenkins. She's quite a divisive figure personally. I've had my moments of being quite critical of her, and that's all on the record. She once made an extremely obscene gesture whilst she was a minister outside Downing Street. I thought it was a terrible way for anybody to behave.
Loves a lockdown
in public,
party, by the way, of course.
Well, that's a whole
allegedly.
It's a whole other subject.
Allegedly.
But Tim Montgomerie is much more important. What his decision does, I think, is gives an awful lot of other Conservative figures, not necessarily MPs, but Conservative players, a bit of cover if they too want to now join Reform or another party. It's somehow very symbolic in legitimising the growth of the Reform Party and bringing in people from the Tory fold.
Totally agree. It just feels like it already sort of felt like something was happening.
Yeah.
But Tim has crystallised a kind of direction of travel, crystallised a process that is clearly going on. Now, this was the final straw that broke the camel's back for him. Really interesting. He was still wrestling with his conscience this time last week, and it was when Kemi Badenoch stood up and made that preemptive speech before she knew that these disastrous legal migration figures were going to come out the following day. I think they came out on Thursday, and she made a speech on
the Wednesday night.
In order basically to sort of say, we're sorry about this, but, you know, to try to ameliorate the shocking nature of these figures and the effect that they would have on Tory supporters. And Tim said that when he saw those figures the following day, he said, you know, how can I have been a part of a party that let this happen? And he said that the deceit the Tories used to facilitate this ludicrous avalanche of people
basically
coming
open doors policy.
1.75 million people in 2 years. We're supposed to celebrate that because 2 years ago it was 906,000. Last year it was a very healthy 728,000, down by 20%. He said that it was the Tories' deceitfulness on immigration, their complete failure to tackle the migrant crisis, illegal immigration, that made him decide this party is no longer for me. And the final straw was this, because I said to him, look, this is where I think Kemi Badenoch made a real mistake last week. She could have really given Keir Starmer a hard time and said, look, we have made a real mess of this for 14 years. This is our fault. I humbly apologise. I wasn't really a part of it, but I'm going to make sure we don't do it ever again. I'm going to solve the migrant crisis. And here is the number for my new migration cap. I'm going to give you the number that we will shoot for once we're in power. Instead, she didn't do it. So her speech was the same bland claptrap as the Prime Minister came out with the following day, and Tim just said that was it.
It was nowhere near good enough. That was, I mean, I hesitate to call it a wasted opportunity for Kemi Badenoch, because, you know, she's hardly going to be able to capitalise on it. You know, it is a catastrophe what's happened and what happened at the hands of her party. But as you say, she should have been far more robust. And where is she exactly, by the way? Because there's quite a lot going on, isn't there? And there's a lot of muttering already, I can tell you, within the parliamentary party about where is Kemi and why is she not making more running. You know, when you're in opposition, you've got to hustle. You know, you are hustling, you're elbowing your way in, you've got to be a guerrilla warrior.
Make mischief, disrupt.
You've got to do that. You know, otherwise, who cares about you?
So a lot of people said to me about that, because my first reaction to that speech, and Tim totally agreed with me, he said she should have put a figure on it. And of course, the Conservative with a small c observers all say, oh yeah, well, you see, that could hamstring her in the future.
Well, too bad.
Well, frankly, 4 years? Who cares? This is politics. This is politics. And she was guilty with that speech of extremely poor politics.
And just naivety, really, to think that that was ever going to be good enough for the scale of what happened. Imagine that someone ransacks your house and then appears the next day and knocks on the door and says, sorry, I stole a knife and fork. You know, that's how it felt. You know, no, listen, you actually ransacked...
Here's your cutlery back.
And then you burnt down my house and you're telling me sorry about the knife and fork? You know, not going to fly.
No, exactly. And in terms of this direction of travel, I say, as we both agree, you cannot... overestimate the significance of Tim Montgomerie going to the Reform UK party. And here's what I think is going to happen. You know, it's probably over, in my view, optimistic to predict the total demise of the Tories. But as long as the Tories and the Labour Party, never mind the Lib Dems, they don't matter, but as long as the Tories and the Labour Party cannot come up with any viable solution to the migrant crisis, people will increasingly turn to Reform UK, because I think everybody trusts Nigel Farage, Richard Tyson, the guys, and the women, of course, to actually do something about our migrant crisis and legal migration. We know Nigel Farage, you give him the chance, he would solve this crisis, because unlike Kemi Badenoch and unlike Keir Starmer and all their bland ilk, he has got resolve. We need a politician with resolve. We need a party with resolve. And I think more and more people are thinking Reform UK will do it. So I don't think you should underestimate the direction of travel. More and more people joining Reform by the day.
That is absolutely true. So here's another thing that I think is really important: money. So now Reform is beginning to see some pretty significant donors wanting to put money into the coffers. And let me be very frank, that has been a struggle for a long time. Political parties need money. You can't campaign, you can't run elections, you can't even run a by-election without thousands of pounds. It's expensive. And Reform has been run on a shoestring for a long time. Now there are some serious players, and in fact only today I was talking to one of the Conservative Party's wealthiest donors, and that person was absolutely furious with the party, and I don't think that person will go back to the Conservatives. Now, that doesn't mean that that person will go to Reform. Who knows what they'll do? Maybe they'll be so disillusioned, having given so much money to the Conservatives and got the square root of nothing that the party promised. Maybe they won't want to be part of political donations again. But they're not going to go to the Labour Party, are they, these people? And I think what we'll see in coming weeks is one or two high-profile donors. Maybe it may take months, but I know they're in the pipeline, and that is going to be hugely helpful for the party. But let's also just have a reality check here. They've got 5 MPs. They have got a mountain to climb.
Of course. But something is going on. Something is going on. And when you talk about donors, let's talk about Elon Musk. Story in the Sunday Times saying that he could be set to hand, I think it said $100 million. Maybe that might be £100 million, given that it's in Great Britain. But who knows? My feeling about this, because Nigel Farage, of course, said it, I don't know anything about it. And I kind of believe Nigel on that one. But this is my feeling about it. Elon Musk, with his money and his intelligence, has helped. He's super intelligent. He's a super smart guy. These lefties who call him a clown, you don't get to be the self-made richest man on the planet by being a clown, you idiots. You're the clowns. He has, with his super intelligence and his money, helped to transform the face of American politics by funding Donald Trump to the tune of $200 million. Now, I think he did it for 2 reasons. One, that is his politics. He's not woke, he's right of centre. But secondly, he's a shrewd man, and shrewd businessmen back the winners. And so it's going to be very good for him in America. I certainly would view it as very plausible that he might think about doing the same thing in Britain. He takes a great interest in Britain. He's got a great antipathy towards this awful government of ours, so we love him for that. And remember, £100 million to him is like a fiver to you and me.
So the truth is, Reform doesn't need £100 million. No, who's going to not want that? But, you know, if Elon Musk were to give a tenth of that, that would be utterly transformational for a small but very rapidly growing political party. I think it's entirely plausible. If you think about it, look, it's nothing to, a few million, which would be huge for Reform, is nothing to Elon Musk. I think he would do it potentially in a kind of cahoots with Donald Trump and Nigel Farage, out of sheer, can I use this word, badassery? Let's just be a disruptor. Yeah, that's what they do.
Exactly right. And also, I think he genuinely believes this country could be a lot better. Just like he believed the Democrats were ruining America, and he set about getting rid of the Democrats, and what a brilliant job he did of it. And by the way, this is what I always thought about Musk. Shrewd man. I think he realised probably before anyone else Trump was going to win that election. Yeah, this is the thing about the brilliance of Elon Musk. He is a genius. He sees things years before anybody else.
Yeah.
He saw that coming. I think he sees it in Britain too, the backlash against this woke socialism that we're being assailed by at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't have any inside intel on that, but I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think that there is, you know, that Nigel Farage will perhaps have some personal access over time, you know, just through his relationship, which we all know of, with Trump, and you never know. And I think that could be incredibly exciting for British politics, because Lord knows we can't go on like this. I mean, how can we? And what we're looking at here is potentially the upending of the two-party system that we've known all this time.
I agree. In the next 4 years, I think Reform, I think money will pour into them. Maybe they'll get that Musk cash. Reform will feel more and more comfortable in their skin, and the Tories will be the ones who are scrabbling around, worried about their future. And it could be the Tories begging Reform to have some kind of alliance, and
I think it's possible.
And just maybe Reform UK won't even need it. Let's see. Fascinating times.